Hello, friends, and welcome to your midweek Kings of Anglia podcast. I am Mark Heath. I'm your host most of the time. And today is Thursday, September the 16th. That's notable, friends, for two reasons. One, Ipswich Town still haven't won a game this season. And two, and more excitingly, it's the opening night for our friends at New Wolsey Theatre, Never Lost at Home. If you haven't got your tickets yet, why not? Get on the New Wolsey website, get them now, and go back and listen to the special podcast that me and Hutchie did with the director and the star of the show, because that is tremendous. You do not want to miss that. Speaking of tremendous, I'm going to introduce, first of all, I've got two friends with me today, and the first one stoically stood in for me on Monday as host, did a tremendous job. He is already the most popular king by some distance, and he's only added to that with his hosting of the show on Monday. Mike, the grand porcine, the big porker, Bacon, how are you?
Well, thank you very much, Mark. Yes, I'm very well. Thank you very much for asking. And yes, I did stand in, as you say, and I have actually seen the viewing figures for that particular podcast, which were double the usual amount. So I don't think I have to say anything else. Thank you to all my fans out there who enjoyed it so much, and really looking forward to doing it again sometime.
Are you able to kind of revert back to just being a mere guest on today's show? Or are you going to kind of jump into host mode at some point and start pointing at the face and saying, look at the numbers, boys?
No, I'm very flexible. I can go back into being just a basic guest mode. I mean, it doesn't worry me. I can be what I can be, really.
Flip the switch.
Yeah, I can be a super switch. But obviously, I probably am the best guest as well. But I mean, that's just the way it is, isn't it? I'll just be what I am.
He's a triple threat, Hutchie, the man, Mike. He's a host, he's a commentator, he's a guest, he's a writer. He's many things to many people, and we're very lucky to have him. We're also, of course, very lucky to have you, Hutchie, Andy Warren. You're off on Monday like myself. How are you, my friend? How are you bearing up? Obviously, you had to watch another shit show on Tuesday night. How's things?
I can survive. I can survive having to watch that. Are you worried about the threat of Mike at all?
You've got to be worried, haven't you? I mean,
I think you need to be.
The man, as I say, every time the man's on the podcast we get hashtag more bacon. Every time he's not on the podcast, we get, it's a decent show, but Mike Bacon wasn't involved, so I'm not really interested. As I say, he's clearly already the most popular king by some distance. Who knows where he can take it from here? We'll probably be left behind in his jet fumes, in his wake. But while we've got him, let's burn bright with him. And kind of hook onto his coattails as he sends us through the atmosphere. Boys, before we get on to what is going to be inevitably a bit of negativity around Ipswich Town, unfortunately, and losing again, still not got that first win, losing to a bunch of kids from West Ham on Tuesday night, I thought we'd start the show in positive mode today because the sun's out. It's lovely. I've just taken my dog for a walk. It was very pleasant. So I thought I'd ask you all for positive from your lives before we kick off the negativity at Town. And I'm going to start, boys. I've been retweeted this week by cricket royalty, I'm told. I put out what I thought was a fairly innocuous little video of two mascots having a dance off, which subsequently got retweeted by someone called Bumble. I don't know who that is, but I'm told he's a big deal. He's certainly got about 500,000 followers. And then subsequently retweeted by Graham Swan, who I know, again, former England cricketer. And now my phone will not stop going off with people retweeting and liking that original tweet I did, which is very silly. I've got no idea who Bumble is. Can you enlighten me, either of you?
Obviously Bumble, David Lloyd, former player, coach, and probably most people would know him now as commentator extraordinaire. He's a unique character, isn't he, Mike? In terms of commentary, you can be that kind of guy in cricket. He's just whimsically chats his way through hours of cricket on the TV.
It's not old. Who's the guy? My dear old thing. That's not him, is it?
No, that's Blowers.
I like Blowers.
Blowers is not Bumble. Bumble is Bumble, and Blowers is Blowers. Yeah,
excellent.
Bumble is very well known among the cricket fraternity for his wit and humour, and as Andy said, he does a lot of commentary now. He writes a lot of books as well. Does a lot of author stuff. So he's well known out there. So it's a couple of good people to have retweet you, my friend.
Well, I'm buoyed by it. I mean, obviously, I've no idea who they are, apart from Graham Swan. And cricket is a ridiculous game for people who can't play other sports. But anyway, I'll move on before I get too controversial. Mike,
yes,
your reason to be positive is very exciting indeed, and it is Ipswich Town related. The floor is yours, my famous friend.
Well, it is a very exciting period for me here personally, and also for hopefully for Ipswich Town fans, because we don't have a huge amount to be overly excited about. But the pandemic, of course, put pay, unfortunately, to Kings of Anglia magazine, the magazine that was doing so well and we all loved so much, but suddenly everything went, you know what, and no football, no nothing. But the good news is issue 15 of Kings of Anglia, wow, is here. Yes, it's here. It's here.
Look at that. So obviously, if you're watching on video, you can see it, Mike. But for those just listening audio-wise, can you explain what that beautiful front cover is and what's in the magazine and where people can get it?
Yes, Kings of Anglia magazine is Joe Piggott is on the front of this this magazine. This time out, issue 15. I did a big interview with Joe a couple of weeks ago when he was in the team, and he was happy then. And no, he was fine. And it's a great interview with Joe. And talking of cricket, which seamless. Absolutely seamless, this podcast. I can't get over it. He is a very good cricketer. He actually played for Kent seconds and actually had to make the choice between cricket and football. But I think financially he made the right decision. Anyway, there's a lot about Joe in there and his life in general. And of course, him looking forward to playing regularly in the number 9 position for Ipswich Town, which hopefully, less so at the moment, the better. Also in there is Macaulay Bonne, great Macaulay Bonne feature, a great feature with Lee Evans as well, and Chaplow Day. We all remember Richard Chaplow Day as a little piece on there, which my friend Mr. Hutch has put together. Excellent work. And if I can I continue to name drop? While do I have?
Absolutely, please do. Yeah,
we have articles from Carl Fuller. We have North Stander. We have Diary of a Tractor Girl. We have Mr. Steve Mellon from the Southwest branch. I know is a regular viewer of KOA Pod. And it'll be tweeting out there where you can get hold of it online. You can order it from our bookstore. But of course, in all good newsagents up and down I would say country, but I mean county. Well, as well as hopefully Planet Blue in the not too distant future.
And some rubbish newsagents as well. Not just good newsagents, some rubbish ones as well.
Yes, some rubbish ones as well. It will be in as well. Yes, absolutely, it will, Mr. Touch. So that's a big plug. Can I show it again?
Of course.
I just have.
For people viewing, there you go. Look at it. It's a thing of beauty. Mike, for that tremendous package, I'd be expecting probably to pay about 25 quid. How much is Kings of Anglia?
Exactly. You're correct. It is 25 quid. I mean, and quite honestly, okay, that sounds a lot of money, my friend, but I mean, it is worth every penny. No, I tell a lie. It's £3.99.
There you go. Cannot say fairer than that, Town fans. Something very positive about the club. The Kings of Anglia magazine is back, and we're all very, very excited. Hutchie, we've gone from being retweeted by cricket legends to the return of a legendary Kings of Anglia Ipswich Town magazine. What's your positive to contribute to this positive fest before we delve into the negativity that was Tuesday night?
I've got loads.
Yeah?
Yeah. Can I give you 3?
Give me Trey, yeah.
First up, I found my signed pictures of Neil Buchanan and Dave Benson Phillips.
Oh, wow. That is good, because we thought they were lost forever.
They're not lost forever. They're up on my board now. If we're showing things, there's Neil Buchanan. Dave Benson Phillips is somewhere else. The weather's turning. The sun's going away. I like that. I don't like the sun. I'm ready for autumn and winter. That's great news. And my third positive is my daughter has made friends with the daughter of a multiple Olympic gold medalist. So
I can only assume you mean Karen Pickering.
No.
We've got another multiple Olympic gold medalist in Ipswich, have we?
Not local.
Steve Redgrave.
No.
Adam Peaty.
No.
Cyclist Laura Trott.
No.
Mark Spitz.
No.
Oh, this is a good game.
Keep going.
Multiple. Who's got the most? Surely not the torpedo.
No.
Right
sport.
Swimming. Right. Multiple swimming gold medals. Not Adam Peaty.
No.
What's the name? Becky Adlington.
Yes.
Wow. That is big news. How, pray tell, has that happened?
Bumped into her in a park in Manchester. They played on the trampoline and seesaw and that. And now we're probably going to be best mates forever.
Nice.
Brilliant.
So there we are.
Did you reveal that you knew who she was, or did you just play it cool, Trig?
No, barely spoke to her. All about playing with the kids. I've got serious swing pushing. She was just there sat with her dog.
What dog she got? Most importantly, what dog has Becky Adlington got?
Small. Don't know.
I need more details.
You're not getting any more. I don't know. It's a small dog.
That is very, very exciting, friends. Neil Buchanan, of course, actually a very interesting character. A member of a death metal band, as I understand, and also long rumored to be Banksy. Although I suspect that's not the case. Anyway, boys, that's a tremendous start to the show. And there's Dave Benson Phillips. Look at that. As far as I know, he's not in a death metal band, but I could be incorrect on that. Friends, that's a positive start to the show. Let's now dive headfirst into the negativity which continues to surround Ipswich Town. We are going to try and be positive, but unfortunately, when they haven't won yet this season and they've just lost to a team of kids from West Ham on Tuesday night with, it has to be said, a team that should have been good enough to win that game, it's hard to be positive. Hutchie, you were there on Tuesday night. Ipswich Town, as they have done for most of the season, took the lead, then lost the lead within a matter of minutes and ended up losing. Your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I think any Ipswich senior, and you would we'll talk about the team selection, I'm sure, in a minute, but you would class this as a senior Ipswich Town side, and any senior Ipswich Town team should be beating an academy team from the Premier League, I would say. They didn't do it a year ago in the same competition against Arsenal. They lost to them as well with a kind of similar makeup of team, obviously very different personnel, and they did it again in this one. And like you say, they managed to do it from a winning position again as well. So it was different players, same system, same issues really. And it in isolation, it's not a competition that some of us don't care about as much, maybe more than others. But as part of the bigger picture, it's another blow and another game where the same issues reared their head and just added to the miserable start to the season, really.
Before kickoff on Tuesday night and after the 5-2 humbling against Bolton on Saturday, Mr. Cook promised us that with Sam Morsey in the team, that would never happen. He'd be there times 10, essentially anointing him as the saviour of the season. Now, we got to see him for the first time against West Ham, and they lost to a team of kids. What did you make of Mr. Morsey? Because there was certainly a lot of build-up and a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Clearly, he can't play yet in the league for another couple of games. But what were your first impressions of Sam?
Yeah, I'm not sure those comments were particularly helpful. Obviously, they came after a 5-2 home defeat when Paul was hurting. Clearly, so he should have been. It was visibly hurt. You wouldn't expect anything else from a competitor like him, but not hugely helpful comments, I wouldn't say. We know Sam Morsey's a good player, but that's an awful lot of pressure on the shoulders of one man. He looked fine in this game. He looks like he's an upgrade in certain areas on what's been there in midfield at the moment. He played in the position we know he's going to play. He uses the ball quite quickly. He's quite happy to kind of stab the ball around with his foot. He's not kind of one to put his foot on the ball and ponder. He likes to take it off the goalkeeper and move it quickly to somebody else. He created good angles with Tom Carroll to try and get him into the game as well and move the ball around the pitch. I wouldn't say he absolutely dominated the game, but he was more than comfortable in it, I would say. And I think he's going to be a plus for this team when he can get in it. But no, you're right. They didn't win, and I don't think they multiplied their level of performance by 10 either. But you know, that's some quite big words to live up to.
You described him as solid but not spectacular, I think, in your match ratings. So we'll see when he gets back in the team. We'll see.
I'm not sure if he ever needs to be spectacular though. I'm thinking about it, like he is supposed to be the epitome of solid. Not sure they necessarily need the spectacular from that position.
In theory, they've got spectacular elsewhere on the pitch, haven't they? Yeah, the likes of Edwards and Selena and anyway, we'll come back to the game itself in short order and a few more observations about some of the players who played and maybe did themselves no favours. But Mike Baker, I'm going to wind you up and let you go now because one of the things you're fast making a name for is speaking from the heart and as you see it. and friend, you have a very definite opinion on Ipswich Town's approach to the cup competitions in recent times. We all know the tradition. The sky is blue, water is wet, and Ipswich Town go out of the cups at the earliest possible stage because we don't want that messing up the rest of the season. You, my friend, think that's a nonsense. On you go.
Well, it is a nonsense, isn't it? I don't need to think it. It is. I'm not, and I'm not alone in thinking this. It is a nonsense. This obsession with knocking yourselves out of the cup so we can quote concentrate on the league is is absolutely ridiculous. But when I'm spluttering already because I'm so annoyed. The thought of it. When have we last time we ever concentrate on the league after being knocked out of the cup? We have been promoted not once in 20 years. We've been relegated twice. We've been knocked out of every cup competition by the end of September. I mean, we're not out of the EFL trophy yet, of course. I mean, we could still come back on this, and these words might come back to haunt me when we're at Wembley in May. But at the moment, we're out of the Carabao Cup. I mean, of course, I come from an era of 60-odd games, League Cups, quarterfinals, FA Cup semi-finals, UEFA Cup finals, all in the same season. And all these excuses that players can't play more than a couple of games, and these things get in the way. And it's just, and momentum, of course, momentum is key. You know yourself, Heath, as a fellow sportsman, once you get going, and it's a momentumous thing. I mean, if I play golf, if I hit a good drive on one hole, I'm sure I'm going to hit a good drive on the next one. And that's the way it goes. I don't turn around and walk off after I've hit one drive and give up and think I've done enough. So this Ipswich Town team and the whole mantra needs to concentrate on winning football matches. A football match is a football match. It doesn't matter what it is. This is getting quite serious now, okay? I'm being very cross now.
I like it.
Football match is a football match, okay? And you win one, it builds momentum. I have been lucky enough to watch Ipswich Town have lots of great cup runs and good league performances. It's got to stop.
Your erstwhile colleague and best friend, Stuart Watson, Hutchie, described it as a wasted opportunity to build team chemistry on Tuesday, because although yes, it was a strong team, there were 10 changes from the side that were so miserable against Bolton on Saturday. What was your view on the side? I mean, clearly Town have got such a strong squad now that they have to play. These players have to play in some competitions. So there is an argument, obviously, for players who aren't necessarily playing in the league to play in these. But equally, you have to balance that surely against trying to get some sort of chemistry and balance in the side and consistency going forward at a time when they haven't even won a game yet.
Yeah, I think you need to look at the bigger picture potentially for this one. I think there are some players that I wouldn't have played in this game. Wes Burns, for example, is nursing an Achilles problem. George Edmondson, possibly. I think after the game, Paul Cook spoke about Edmondson. He's had a troubled summer, hasn't he? We've only just seen him. Would 3 games in a week be useful for him? Probably not. So maybe you dip those out. But if you look through the team that actually did start, I'd probably argue that really the only player in there that you might argue would be kind of pushing for a place to start on Saturday would be Tom Carroll. Vincent Young, probably maybe before the game, you might have hoped he'd come through it and then be good to go the weekend. I'm not convinced he will play this weekend, but if you look through it, the only one of those players in there that you're looking at thinking this is a chance for him to put a hand up and be in this team for Saturday would be Tom Carroll. If it was me, I would have probably taken the chance to give, assuming you don't play Edmondson, you'd give Christian Walton and Cameron Burgess, for example, another game together as goalkeeper and centre half, maybe even with Coulson in there as well. I could accept maybe Coulson needed to dip out actually, given his COVID issues. Sam Morsey had to play, of course, but that him being available did mean that you probably couldn't go with a midfield that's going to play against Lincoln at the weekend, because we know Morsey can't play. And then a front three of Norwood, Barry and Jackson with the best will in the world. I don't think any of them were really realistic starters for the Lincoln game. So I would have been I'd have been playing a few more, I think. Some understandable ones, but a few more I'd have had involved, because right now the big picture isn't about ensuring that Louis Barry's happy and has got minutes in. It's just to pick Louis out as an example. It like you say, it's about finding a way of winning football matches. And for me, I would probably argue that the best way to find a way of winning this game on Saturday against Lincoln would be to use players on Tuesday and work out how to how to do that. Paul Cook thought differently. The team was picked before the weekend. Maybe it was hard to go back on that, having already picked it and maybe handed out some promises. Paul Cook thought differently about it, and I think hopefully we all feel differently about it after the Lincoln game at the weekend when hopefully they go and get a win. But for me, there's a few players that I would have had in that game absolutely, just to try and find something and help this gelling process rather than give it a few days off.
Mike, Town were dreadful. I mean, to be fair, on Saturday, the first half was decent. It was entertaining. It was end to end. They were in it. They probably should have been 3-2 up. Ended up going in 3-2 down at the break. And second half, they just completely fell apart. It was abysmal. So, with that in mind, would you have looked to play the same sort of team again Tuesday night? What would you have done?
Well, I mean, didn't Paul Cook say afterwards that players had given him an opportunity there to show that they could do it for Saturday or get in the team on Saturday, and they'd all blown it, sort of thing, or implied that Tuesday night was an opportunity? Well, you seriously telling me if James Nord had scored 4 goals against West Ham under 21s, he'd have started at number up front for Ipswich on Saturday against Lincoln? He wouldn't have done. The team was picked just to get through the game against West Ham, and we're going back to this. Can players play more than 2 games a week or 3 games a week? I know I've listened to Mick Mills on Radio Suffer. He just shakes his head and he can't get over, if you can't play a couple of games within 4 days, what are you, what's your fitness levels, for goodness sake? I mean, really, this isn't, I just think I certainly would have played centre halves. I would certainly have tried to play centre halves. I would have played the goalie again. Yeah, there's Edmondson. Just play Edmondson for 45 minutes. Doesn't have to play 90. And why is this obsession that you've got to, if you start, you've got to play the 90? You could just have a comfortable 45 with your partner who's going to be with you again at Lincoln. So yeah, Burgess and Edmondson side by side for 45 minutes. What harm would that have done? It doesn't matter, does it? You're trying to, you look like you're planning, whereas just changing everything looks like you couldn't care less. And it's no good saying they do care less, because if you want to win the game, you would put out a strong side in that. As I said, Paul Cook's comments afterwards that people were there to show him that they were in the frame for Saturday can't be right, because I'd like to say I just dispute the fact. As I said, Nor was a classic example. If he'd scored 4, would he start Saturday? No.
Well, of the players who did play, Hutchie, did anyone do themselves any favours? Who definitely didn't do themselves any favours? I mean, we have to look at Thomas Holy, don't we? In that regard, poor old Thomas. And
should we get that chat out the way now?
Let's do that. Yeah.
Poor old Thomas. Maybe it may be a surprise that he played this game at all. I think I was probably expecting Hladky to play it, given that they've both firmly dipped behind Christian Walton. But this was a big chance for Thomas Holy, fighting for that second spot now. He was on the bench against Bolton, but he didn't cover himself in glory. His kicking was a bit of an issue all night. Watching the first West Ham goal back, he was so slow to get down to that. I'd not, by the time we dished out, I gave him a 3 in my player ratings, which I regularly have been accused of being an anti-Holy in those ratings for the last year or so. But I gave that before I'd seen that first goal back, very slow to get down to it. And then those 10 mad sort of few minutes at the end where it's an easy ball to catch and he's managed to throw it somehow. He's probably 4 yards from his own goal line when he should have caught it. And he's managed to throw it then 2 yards over his own line somehow. He's managed to retreat 5 yards with the ball and clearly over the line. Officials didn't see it. And then he's come out and absolutely wiped out the young West Ham guy for the penalty as well. And it's hard to see. It's hard to see where a way back for him is now. I think he'll be the third choice man for the rest of the season now.
How about other people who maybe didn't cover themselves in glory? You mentioned Louis Barry earlier. I think he would have hoped to do better, wouldn't he?
Yeah, not much football for him either, is there? But he was playing wide on the left and didn't really have much of a look in it. When he did get the ball, he maybe tried to overplay a bit because he wasn't getting the ball that often. And when he did, he wanted to impress with it. I'm not sure about him in a wide position from what I've seen so far. This is no slight on Idris El Mazouni, who I thought actually, when he did get the ball, looks okay with it. He's had a good pre-season. He played well in the Newport game, but Ipswich just cannot get this number 10 into the game. He lose account of everyone that's been in there. We've seen Idris have a go at it now. Barry's had a go at it. Joe Piggott's had a go at it. Scott Fraser's had a go at it. Connor Chaplin's had a go at it, and not one of them have they managed to get into these games. They're just not impacting the game from that position, and that's one of a few kind of big flaws in this team at the moment. And it's a struggle really to see how they sort that one out.
And in terms of players who maybe did all right, you mentioned Tom Carroll earlier, and the likes of James Norwood and Caden Jackson, who obviously we've not seen a lot of. Fair to say they were okay. They were okay,
yeah. I think I'm not sure they'd have gone into that game with planning on playing James Norwood for 90 minutes, but they did. First half, he looked really good. Maybe burned out a little bit from that point on, which you might have expected. Just glad he got through the game without pinging that hamstring again. I'd like to think that he's going to be seriously in the mix for involvement in the league squad at some point, backing up Macaulay Bond probably. Jackson did okay out wide. Certainly made a better job of playing out wide than we've seen previously, where under Paul Lambert it was a bit of a disaster. He looked like he was bursting to try and get beyond that left back and be played in, but they never got a ball in a position to play the pass for him. Thought Luke Wolfenden looked okay at the back as well. He'll have felt hard done by to have missed out at the weekend, but I think he did okay as well, and as did Albi Armin next to him on his debut. I've liked the look of him when he's been playing in the under-23s as well. So yeah, there were some okay performances in there, but nothing really to write home about, I wouldn't say.
No one's gone and grabbed that chance with both. You have to grab it with both hands, don't you? You never grab it with one hand. You grab it with both hands. Two hands. No one's done that.
No, other than I'm not convinced he's absolutely gone in and grabbed the chance with two hands or a chest or anything that you can kind of help cradle anything with. But we'll get on to the Lincoln game, I'm sure, later. But of those players, I think the most likely maybe to come in as a starter would be Tom Carroll. But probably not purely as a result of his performance in this game. He was one of the better players, I thought, but he might kind of get that nod by default potentially.
Okay, well, let's draw a line under that, boys, and look at the bigger picture, because I put a tweet out yesterday morning on the KOA account just saying, look, what, if anything, needs to change? Ipswich Town haven't won a game in 8 tries this season. Clearly something isn't clicking somewhere. And what I didn't want was the kind of standard, well, sack the manager is useless, because I think that's just lazy. And especially in this situation when he's just signed 400 new players, to be talking about getting rid of the manager is a nonsense. I mean, what happens if a new manager comes in and goes, I don't like these players? Then you're in a whole world of hurt, aren't you? So sack the manager for me is not even in the question at the moment. Obviously, fans entitled to their opinions. Everyone's got an opinion, but for me, that's not the way to go. So, Mike, in terms of other sensible kind of thoughts we had, a lot of them were centered around formation and this 4-2-3-1, which Cook is wedded to. He said that's what he wants to play. But we've seen consistently so far this season that it's just not working. There's so much space all over the pitch for other teams to exploit, particularly behind the fullbacks, KBY especially, and midfield, obviously, there are gaps all over the shop. And I heard you say on the podcast on Monday that you're not a big fan of 4-2-3-1. So is it time to try something new? Should we be looking maybe at playing a 4-3-3 or something different just to kind of shake things up a bit?
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we've got enough players and enough quality in that squad to be able to change things. The trouble with football management and coaching in particular, speaking as somebody who did a little bit of coaching as a youth team coach many years ago, Suffolk coach the year 2008. It's hardly, I appreciate it's hardly Premier League style, but coaches have a very much an opinion that they know best, and fans and idiots like ourselves sitting here, we don't know anything. We haven't got a clue. We just don't know football, and they know what to do. But I'm afraid I'm quite more intrigued by coaches and managers who particularly have the foresight to chop and change things, I was watching Borussia Dortmund yesterday, and Marcus Reusser, I believe, is the manager there now. And you'll know, I think. But they were saying, hey, he was changing formations literally every half an hour, which perhaps seems a bit bizarre in the game. But he was basically adapting to. He wasn't just changing formation because they were 3-0 down. The score was 0-0. So he was adapting things. I'd like to see a change from 4-2-3-1. I mean, 4-1-4-1 is something I think you can flood the midfield with and still have plenty of attacking options, and you have one person sitting very, very deep all the time, not sort of slightly deep and going forward, but very deep all the time, almost a Cole Skews type position, if you like. Someone who'll sit quite regularly, don't worry about him scoring goals at all. But anything, 4-3-3, yeah, maybe. Just try something. I mean, this I hear this sometimes where people say, well, Paul Cook 4-2, that's his formation. Well, that's it, is it? So that's it. Nothing can change. I mean, you have to, going back, Sir Alf Ramsey won the World Cup by changing complete formation, back in 1966. I mean, I wasn't there, by the way, before you asked, but, people change. Barcelona brought in Pep's brilliant. I mean, Pep brings in false number 9s. He just changes things all the time. You don't see Pep Guardiola just say, I'm going to play one formation that I'm never going to change. And I think Ipswich Town have got enough good players in that squad to be able to do things with them. I don't see why you could just have to be pigeonholed into this little formation. Because what you're going to say, it's going to be 4. It's going to be the 2 are going to obviously be Morsey and Evans, or Morsey and Harper, or Harper and that's going to be it. Is it? That's just it. That's that's basically those. It's never going to change. If they're not playing particularly well, it's got to change. And yeah, I'd like to see it. Just try something. Surely, if it's worth trying something different.
Obviously, the counter argument to that, Andy, is we bemoaned and lamented for a long time in the Lambert reign that he kept changing things all the time, and there was no kind of set formation or plan. Where do you stand on that? Because I would say of the replies we had and the things I've seen on Twitter, the formation and particularly the issue with the fullbacks is something that keeps coming up. What do you think about that?
I don't think the formation is the problem. The formation is kind of a very, very arbitrary kind of how many defenders you have, how many midfielders you have, and that I think that there can be tweaks within that. It's a formation I really like. I like watching it. Some really good teams use it, but you don't have to tell the fullbacks to get forward as high as they do to leave those gaps. You don't have to tell a kind of not entirely fit Kane Vincent-Young that he needs to spend his game up and down to the extent that, like you'd have seen on Saturday, Mark, that after 15 minutes he was struggling to get back in, wasn't he? After going on a run to the edge of the box, he was struggling to get back. You don't have to. You can play 4-2-3-1 without going absolutely mad at fullback, and maybe that's where a tweak needs to come. That just need to be a bit more compact with it. 4-2-3-1 can be compact, and in many ways Cook wants it to be. The 2 in his game, they talk about forming this defensive, and I hate the way that these kind of expressions have crept into the game. But the holding 2 are supposed to form this defensive box with the centre backs, which in theory then allows those fullbacks to get forward and be a bit more carefree. But I think it comes back to the blend in midfield. It's not been right, which means it's not formed that box, which means they've not been able to cover the fullbacks, which means the whole thing looks all over the place at times. That the hope has got to be that Morsey coming into that midfield will potentially solve that. If you tell the fullbacks maybe don't get forward quite so much, clearly they're attacking players. That's what they're there for. Then if you add Morsey into that as well, it becomes a bit more solid and compact. I read Stu's piece this morning that he's done kind of looking at teams that have come back from really bad starts to get things right, and two of them, there's some great parallels with Ipswich with 2 of them, both Bolton and Blackpool, one in League 2 and one in League 1 last season. Their managers started off with very firm philosophies and just reined it in a little bit because they were a bit more gung-ho, more attacking, a bit more expansive. Both Ian Evatt and I've completely forgotten the Blackpool manager's name. Anyway, we carry on. The guy that was at Liverpool reined it in a bit, got more solid, and from there they gave themselves a foundation to play. The number 10 is a huge issue for Ipswich. They're almost irrelevant at times in games. I'm not convinced Connor Chaplin's made for that role in this team at all. I may well be proved wrong on that, and apologies to Connor if I am, but I'm not sure. That's his role. Scott Fraser's not fit. He's the most natural one in there. If they could get him in there a bit more often, maybe this could start to link a little bit more. But I think that these issues start to solve themselves if they work together. If you get the midfield right, the fullbacks can be right. If you get the midfield right, the number 10 can get involved more. I'm ranting now, but I guess this kind of boils down to just calming it down a little bit, be a bit more, a bit less gung-ho, a bit more solid, more see clearly. There's a lot on his shoulders now, but I think he can help solve issues all over the pitch. It's worrying that he's needed to do that, and they're not able to do that with any other player in the squad potentially. But I think I don't think it's just the formation. I could have answered that in one sentence, but there you go.
I like it. Verbose. Hutchie, I like it. It was Neil Critchley, by the way.
That's the
Blackpool. I've just looked. And if you haven't read Stewie's bit, it's a Watson special, an in-depth peek into the numbers where Town, after 6 games, suggest they're going to finish, and also sides who have kind of bucked that trend. Blackpool is certainly one we can hang on to because they started badly last season and ended up going up. So fingers crossed. Mike.
Yes.
Paul Cook himself, after the game, described Town as a soft touch. This is a team that he's put together. He's saying they're a soft touch. They've just got to be harder to beat, haven't they? I don't want to go back into the Mick McCarthy, every point's a prisoner, pragmatic, dull, physical football. But as it stands, they're just so easy to play against and easy to beat. I
think it's the amount of new players that have come into the squad, into the football's a funny profession, in so much as it's very sort of alpha male. Everyone's trying to find their little piece within the group. It doesn't take long for players to come to the fore, or perhaps it does take long for players to come to the fore, for players to come out of themselves, to be to be aggressive on the pitch, or to be a leader. There's a lot of new players there, and who's taking charge? Who's going to be that leader? Who's got the confidence to want to shout and tell his mates, swear at them on the pitch, or what they should or shouldn't be doing? And I think, yes, they are a bit of a soft touch, because I don't think anyone's taking charge of anything. Everyone seems to be a little bit fearful of actually taking control. And of course, the longer you go on without winning, the more nervous everything gets. I mean, that's a classic. I mean, you could sense it when at Wimbledon, when the corner was given in the last minute, you could just sense the crowd was quite rightly, oh my God, here we go. And probably the players in the box are thinking, oh God, here we go. And it becomes, it's a mental thing. It's up to players. It's up to players to be strong. Cook can only coach that for so long. I mean, what can he say? I'm sure he likes to think he's signed players who are mentally very strong and will deal with situations. And I'm sure he probably has done, actually, but they're not proving it right now. And they're not proving it because they're not winning. And it's all just, perhaps they're all playing for their, I mean, look how they're all playing for their positions. I mean, which of those players honestly can guarantee they're going to start every week? Well, apart from Morsey at the moment, it seems to me, he's going to start every week and play every position, for the sound of what Cook said. But there'll be lots of players in that team who will be fretting about, because looking over their shoulders, that there's a lot of good players in that squad. That can be an advantage, don't get me wrong, but can also be a disadvantage, especially when you're not winning, because you don't want to make mistakes, even though we're making them. You don't want to take risks. You don't want to be that man shouting and screaming. So, yeah, we are a bit soft, and I think we're a bit soft because it's a new squad, and we don't like Chambers. How long is Chambers at Ipswich? How long is Mick Mills at Ipswich? How long is Matt Holland at Ipswich? You're talking about players who go there a long time. They're comfortable they're comfortable with the club, comfortable in their own shell. They'll say their pieces. I don't think anyone's over comfortable yet, not because they don't like it, but because they haven't found I know it sounds ridiculous, but that is how football can be. It's a bit like going into a new office for the first time. Are you going to start taking over as soon as you get in? I would, obviously, but I mean, a lot of people wouldn't, and no, but I mean, I think he just needs more oomph and grunt out there and more confidence. Perhaps one win will change that. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the things that baffles me, and I was me and she were walking back to the car on Saturday. Ipswich Town's problem for years has been this kind of fragility and their ability to completely collapse when things start going wrong. And you thought, okay, they've cleaned out all that, all the players from last year, the likes of the alpha males. And I hate the term alpha male. There's a general rule in life, by the way, friends. If anyone calls themselves an alpha male, they are a helmet. Anyway, but the alpha males.
I'm not an alpha male, by the way. Nor's Hutchie, are you, Hutchie?
Absolutely not.
The big voices, the big leaders in that dressing room, Luke Chambers, Cole Skuse, whatever, they're all gone. And you think, well, okay, we've got a new brooms in, new attitude. They're not plagued by the same weights and issues and kind of history of falling apart that Town have had. And yet it's happening again, Andy. It's getting to the point now you think, is there something to this curse? Because everything has changed. Everything has changed. Marcus Evans has gone. We've got Mark Ashton in, who's done a tremendous job. Mike O'Leary, new owners, 19 new players. All of the old players, with the exception of a couple of them, have gone. And yet that same issue still seems to be Ipswich Town's weakness almost.
Yeah. Yes, you do start looking at the curse side of things, don't you? It feels that way. You have to have a wry smile to yourself sometimes about it. I don't know. I'd hope it's too early to kind of chuck the capitulation, kind of crumbling label on this group. But what they haven't done is kind of, if the wall crumbles, they've kind of yet to build the wall, which is obviously the previous regime had built their wall, and then it kind of showed that it was soft. Maybe this one, the cement hasn't dried.
Excellent.
I don't know where else to. That's felt like really good, profound stuff when it was coming out of my mouth, but I've got no further to go with it. But no, maybe that is kind of the case, though, isn't it? That the cement hasn't dried. Whether they needed to build the wall in the first place is the thing that's up for debate. Whether the right bricks were bought, still going. You can debate that, but I think it's maybe getting ahead of ourselves a little bit to kind of chuck the always crumble accusations at this group. But they have to finish the wall at some point. It's not keeping anything out. So this Lincoln game is really big at the weekend. For so many reasons. And I'm fascinated to be able to watch it once again.
That's a nice segue. I was hoping you're going to finish there with some kind of Donald Trump reference and building walls, but no.
I'm having a wall built.
Are you?
Yeah, my front of my house. Yeah, I've got. I had a guy around last week, and I was very impressed with the price actually. So I'm not so sure, but I'm having a wall built.
Excellent. That's an interesting aside. One final point before we move on to Lincoln, Hutchie, I want to get your view on this. The other thing that came up was coaching in terms of what is a problem at Town. Obviously, there's been a huge turnover in every department, including coaching at Town. And Paul Cook doesn't have a number two. His long-time number two, Liam Richardson, is ripping things up at Wigan as it stands. Is that a valid concern, do you think? Does Cook need an experienced number two? Because that is, again, that's another kind of classic football thing. If the manager isn't doing very well without his number two, it was all the number two. That was the secret to his success. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, it's easy to chuck around, like you say, isn't it? Look, when he clearly it was a big blow to him and to Ipswich when Wigan gave Liam Richardson a 3-year contract or so to go and manage them. There was a real expectation that he would be coming here to join with Paul, as he has everywhere that they've been together, and that didn't happen. Liam's wanted to go out on his own, and why shouldn't he? He did a really good job at Wigan last year. Clearly, we've seen this summer that they've had ambition, and why wouldn't he want to do that? So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that he didn't come to be number two down here once again with that opportunity there. It's really easy to say that look, Cook's nothing without his assistant, just as we've had this conversation about Paul Lambert and Culverhouse, haven't we, in the past? I can't tell you with certainty what Liam Richardson did for Paul Cook, what role he played in everything that he does. I know he was a very important piece of everything. Players really liked him. And there will be something missing from Paul Cook, that he hasn't got his right-hand man with him. But I think it is maybe a bit too simplistic to simply just say he needs to get an experienced number two, because you can't just chuck an experienced number 2 in and I hope it works. It has to be the right one, and it has to be someone that Paul Cook feels comfortable having as his number 2. I would say he's brought in his coaching staff, which in itself doesn't have a lot of experience in it, does it? First coaching role for Gary Roberts, Francis Jeffers, first at a senior level. Ian Craney has coached elsewhere, but is now here. Hasn't been a particularly senior figure, I don't think, at those previous clubs. So you could definitely argue that there's a lack of something there. Maybe are there enough people to challenge Paul Cook, to push him, to ask him the right questions, to put their opinion across? I don't know. We're not up at the training ground. I'd love to be up at the training ground watching this every day to know exactly what the vibe is there. But I don't think you can just chuck in an experienced number 2 and hope that the manager sort of something clicks with him. The harsh reality is Paul Cook's assistant manager is not available. He couldn't be here. Paul Cook has had the same assistant manager for a decade. Can't have him here. Can't be here. So they just have to get on with it, in my opinion. And whether that works out for the best or not, time is going to tell.
Peek behind the curtain time on Saturday post game. A fairly aggressive Sky reporter put that issue to Mr. Cook. Said, "Is it the coaching?" and got very short shrift. So certainly Mr. Cook does not believe that is the issue. Let's move on there, boys. Lincoln this weekend. The last thing you need after losing 5-2 at home is to go and play a team who've just won 5-1 away, harbouring one of your former stars, who will no doubt be champing at the bit to burn town all over the pitch this weekend, and Teddy Bishop, of course. Mike Bacon, I'm putting you in Paul Cook's shoes. What do you do going to Lincoln?
Well, I made a phone call to Wigan to see if Liam Richards definitely staying first on my way up, but I'll assume he probably is. So, look, Lincoln City. The only thing Lincoln City just fills me with I go have a cold shiver every time I think of Lincoln City and that FA Cup match back in the day. So it's going to be a tough game, isn't it? I mean, but look, the Ipswich Town side have got enough quality. We're not going there. We're going there with a hapless record right now, but we're not going there with this hapless set of players. I mean, this is the thing. This Ipswich Town squad is quite capable of turning it round and going to Lincoln and winning 5-1. I know that sounds bizarre, but quite frankly, they are. They have enough good players. If you're looking at that squad and you don't think there's enough good players, then you go there with, well, we're just going to have to accept we're going to lose on Saturday. I don't accept we're going to lose any game with the squad we have. We shouldn't. I'm sure Paul Cook doesn't go there accepting it. He's probably relishing. He can't wait to get to the next game. There's no doubt. Cook can't wait. Don't think he's sitting there dreading the next game. He can't. He'd have another game tomorrow if he could, just to have another bloody game to get this win, because he knows a win could kickstart so much. Yes, the league is strange though, isn't it? I mean, there's lots of strange results in all leagues, and League One's no different. Lincoln won 5-1 at Cambridge. Okay, fine. Bolt won 5-2 Ipswich. It seems obvious what's going to happen, but it's the last thing that's likely to happen. Ipswich just need a. They just need to see something through, don't they, for God's sake? I mean, we should have beaten Cheltenham. We should have beaten Wimbledon. We should have beaten blah, blah, blah. We know all this. And one day it will click. So, yeah, but every game should be... I mean, I see some fans saying, oh, God, a bit dreading going to Lincoln. And I understand that to a degree. Don't get me wrong. And their support, by the way, is still outstanding. Let me just say this again. Ipswich Town fans, so proud. They should be so proud of themselves the way they're supporting this, this very difficult period after a decade of difficult periods. So if I was Paul Cook, I'd go there full of confidence. He can look at his squad. I hope Edwards is back. Very much so. I don't know if he is, Andy. You might know more than I do.
I can't add anything there, I'm afraid.
All right.
I also hope that he is.
I hope he's back. And obviously Salinas to come into the squad. Morsey's to come into the squad, not on Saturday, but in time. But Edwards, to me, is quite insignificant. But there's goodness me, you're going to have Piggott on the bench. You're going to might even have Nord on the bench. You're going to could have Fraser on. You could have so many players on the bench. People to come in, Barry's, the Chaplin. I mean, it just there are enough good players in this squad to get a result. And if Paul Cook he can't wait to get to Lincoln on Saturday. He won't be dreading it. I can promise you, he won't be dreading it.
After the 5-2 on Saturday, Hutchie, Paul Cook dangled Morsey. He's going to be 10 times the player, and he's going to play on Tuesday. And then after Tuesday, he dangled Bersant Selina. He's going to be ready for Lincoln. So does Selina come straight in? Where do you play him? We've talked about playing him at this troublesome number 10 spot. What would you do?
I'd be surprised if he came straight in to start. But I think they'll have it if he is cleared and available to play in this game after the monitoring that needed to go on. So he is cleared to go. I think he'll be on the bench. But if I was to start him, looking at what's available, I probably would put him in straight in at number 10, assuming Fraser's not fit. Again, it's hard to kind of get injury updates out of Paul Cook at the moment. He's not keen to give. We don't know what injury Kyle Edwards has. We don't know what injury Scott Fraser has or what their prognosis is, other than they're not out for months. If Fraser was available, I'd play him at the 10 and Selina wide if I were to start him. If Fraser's not, I'd probably put Selina in at the 10. But what I actually think will happen is we'll see Selina on the bench and then come quickly into the starting lineup after that.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of other spots on the pitch, Walton, I assume, goes back.
Well, yeah, I think you're making 10 changes again, aren't you? Because of the team that was picked for Tuesday night. So yeah, I think you'd put Walton in goal. I'd have a back four. I think pretty clearly. I think Janoy Donatian will play in this game. Vincent Young just doesn't look himself at the moment. I think we'll see Donatian, we'll see Edwards and Burgess, we'll see Coulson. I think Lee Evans will play. I think Tom Carroll will come in for Rakeem Harper. I think Harper maybe needs to sit out. He's not looked strong enough in the last couple of games, especially. So then, hopefully, with Fraser fit, I'd then probably have a three of Burns, Fraser, Sonny Aluko again behind Macaulay Bond. But if Fraser isn't fit, I might be half tempted to tweak the formation ever so slightly, and maybe play Evans, Harper, and Carroll. You could play one of them a bit more advanced, potentially, just to shore it up just a little bit, because some of the other number 10 options, they just don't excite me. I've not seen anywhere near enough from Chaplin to kind of feel like that this game is one that he needs to be playing at the number 10. Maybe you could drop Pickett in there. I'm not entirely convinced by that either. So should Edwards not be available, should Selina not be available to start, should Fraser not be available, I'd be tempted to maybe bulk out that midfield ever so slightly. We'll see.
And if Janoy Donatian does come in for KVY, which is certainly a possibility, is that then naturally going to mean that the fullbacks aren't as kind of bombing forward as they have been so far? Because that's not really what Donatian does, is it?
No, and it shouldn't, and you shouldn't force him to do it either, because it isn't what he does. It would do on that side. Whether you then change your instructions to Coulson on the other, I don't know. It's probably what I'd be doing. I think, you're probably right. Donatian might be kind of a natural remedy in a few ways on that side. But I think he's almost certain to play this game. Certainly if it was me, I would be doing that.
Mike, obviously one of the key narrative, I guess, other than Town's poor performance and lack of win so far going into this game, is Teddy Bishop, formerly of this parish, formerly the next big thing, now plying his trade at Lincoln. How much of effect do you think that will have on this game? Because no doubt Teddy Bishop, he will want to put on a show against Town and show that they were wrong to let him go.
Yeah, I mean, of course he will. I mean, I feel very strange if he wasn't that bothered about the game on Saturday. He'll be very much looking forward to it. But look, Teddy Bishop had to move, as far as I'm concerned, for his career, not necessarily for Ipswich Town. He'd had long enough time to really. He needed a change. That change of scenery doesn't hurt players. You can get too much into you can be far too much into a comfort zone. And I think Teddy was. He's a very, very naturally talented footballer. And you never know how his career could go from now on. So of course he'll be looking forward to. There's nothing he'd love more. He'd score and win the winning goal and run down the touchline with his finger to his mouth and everything else. But I don't think he would actually. That's not really Teddy Bishop, to be honest. But no, look, of course he's going to be part of. He's going to want to do well. Of course he is. But it's not about Teddy Bishop, is it? I mean, for Ipswich fans, it's they'll give him a great welcome. It's about what Ipswich Town did. They're the ones who need. We're the ones who badly need a result here today. Of course, Teddy would love to do well, but as Andy said, Ipswich we've got to get a result, sooner rather than later. And Bishop would look like to put it about, but I mean, it's I'm not going to over worry about Teddy Bishop. To be honest, I hope he has a good season and a good career ahead of him.
But plays badly on Saturday, obviously.
Yeah, if he gets one of Andy's 3 out of 10s, I won't be too concerned.
Yeah, Hutchie. I mean, Andy, obviously, it'd be very remiss of us not to talk about one of the other key narratives going into this game, which is £1 million picks and how you're doing. So just bring us up to speed. Obviously, Bolton was your last MPP game, EFL trophy. Sorry, Papa John's trophy doesn't count. So how did we do? And what are you going for this weekend?
Mixed bag. 15 grand net loss was the outcome for the Bolton game. Had 100 grand on Ipswich simply to win, and 100 grand on there to be more than 2.5 goals in the game, which obviously the second half of that won, and that all added up to a net loss of £15,000, which is fine. You take a flyer, you sometimes lose.
So where are we in terms of your pot at the moment?
So one I've deleted what was on previously because I've updated it to include the current bets.
Okay.
So I think I was on 725 grand or something.
Okay. So
just a cool £250,000 down.
Yeah. So what are you doing this weekend? What bets are we putting on?
Got 3 bets this weekend.
Whoa, 3.
Good.
Yeah, adding up to £65,000 in total.
Okay.
I believe. Yeah. So I've got a Wes Burns anytime goal scorer at 11-2, 10 grand on that, pays out 65. I've got a missed penalty from either side, £5,000 on that, pays 37.5. And for a pure value bet, Ipswich is odd. Ipswich Town will win a game of football eventually, and while these odds keep getting longer and longer, for pure value purposes, can't ignore it. They're better than even money again. They're they're better than 2-1 for this game. They're 23-10. So I put £50,000 on that, which would pay out 165. That's more a play in the odds rather than a head bet, essentially.
While we're on the subject of betting, I did a piece yesterday. Ipswich Town started the season 6-1 joint favourites to win League One, along with Sunderland, who obviously are doing the business and are now down to 2-1 to win the league. Ipswich Town, however, have drifted spectacularly, like a bit of wood on the Pacific Ocean. They're now 25-1 to win League One. So, Hutchie, are you tempted? I mean, obviously, it doesn't really, not at all.
Well, I don't think they will. Maybe I could put. Let's go mad. What are they? 25-1.
25-1 as it stands.
I'm going to square some things off here. The remaining balance is £657,500.
You're going all in?
Yeah, let's go all in at 25-1. No, I'm going to put £7,500 of that.
Okay, playing the long game there.
Yeah, why not? Let's take your 20. I'll take your 25-1. I'm going to write the date down here. Let's take it on the 16th of the 9th with Ipswich winless in 22nd place in the league.
7.5 grand, 25-1, done. Ipswich Town to win League One. Mike Bacon, tell us what is going to happen this weekend. Our town, and for everything we've talked about today and the reasons to be negative, of which there are clearly a few with no win yet, as you said, all it takes is one win. If they go to Lincoln and scrape a 1-0, get some momentum rolling with this squad, with this team, with this setup, and still the good feeling and the support, everyone behind the club, things could turn very, very quickly indeed. So what do you think is going to happen at Lincoln on Saturday?
Well, firstly, I'm going to put £100 on that 25-1 and put it on expenses. If you sign off, Heathy, and I win,
that's fine, mate. Yeah,
guys, all of this is on expenses.
Yes.
Is it?
Is it anyway? Sorry, I didn't realise. If you do that, Heathy, we can share. I'll share we'll share between the three of us. Obviously, Watto's not on this one, or Roscoe, so it'll just be the three of us. Now, as regards Lincoln on Saturday, How do I think we'll get on? I think we'll probably draw. My heart says we'll win. My head says we'll probably draw. But honestly, you can't. It's very difficult to read this Ipswich Town side because 3 point. What we got? 3 points. 4 points. I can't remember we got now.
No, it's 3 points. Unfortunately,
it's 3. Yeah, it's 3. Could have been 10, and all the rest of it. And I know. So I'll be interested to see if Selena plays. I think Selena is going to make a difference. Stuart Watson described his performances in training on Monday as a joke. That's what he said. He's a joke. And I said, I don't think that's very nice because, taking the mick out of him like that. But he said, no, he meant joke as in he's been in outstanding form. Selena could make a difference. And they have got to win sometime. It's going to happen sometime. And wouldn't it be ironic to win at a club where we've all got such... I mean, I know we won in the cup there a while ago, but overall, our memories of Lincoln are fairly turgid.
Yeah, turgid. There's a word.
Good word, turgid. Yeah, wouldn't it be a great way to start our League One? I think once we get, we'll be like a snowball rolling down a hill. Once we start, we'll pick up and it won't stop.
And we'll win the League One 25-1. So just jumping off the fence there, Mike. You said draw and win there. So can I put you down to 1 yet?
I said a draw and a win.
Yeah,
we could lose as well. No, I think we will. Well, I said what my heart and my head. I think we'll draw 1-1.
1-1. Hutchie, what are you saying? Is this finally the time? I thought it was last weekend. I was wrong, as I so often am. Is this the time for Town to get a win?
No, I'm going to say a draw as well.
Bertrand
Selena's 14-1 to score the last goal in this game.
Here we go. Look at him.
Brilliant.
He's a changed man. This feature has turned him into a degenerate gambler now. He's putting like 3 or 4 bets on every week. Oh, look at those odds. Bang a bit on that. So you're saying what, 1-1 as well, or?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm afraid.
Would a draw at Lincoln be a bad result, given they've just won 5-1 and Town have obviously not won yet this season? Would we be happy with that?
It wouldn't be a disaster. I don't think it changes. It would depend on the performance, I guess, for how that narrative changes and how we feel about Ipswich coming out of it. A draw certainly isn't a disaster. We're not in must-win territory, but a draw would mean that gap to the top 2 gets even bigger. So you're talking about Sunderland being the favourites to win the league now. That they're 12 points clear of Ipswich. If Sunderland pick up a win at the weekend, that gap can become 14, and the job is getting harder. We can't get away from that. The job is getting harder and harder. But all things considered, a draw, a good performance, and a decent draw wouldn't be a disaster, I wouldn't say. But they need to win a game of football soon.
I think
it would be a disaster. It would be a disaster if we were 1-0 up in the 95th minute. And a back pass from Donasian is about to be collected by Walton, who decides to stand on his head rather than kick it and let it go underneath him and then jump up in the air or something like that. That would be a disaster.
Well, yeah, this is it, isn't it? It's all about how these things happen. It's this is the position they're in now.
Last minute 30-yard volley from Evans in the top corner, and we'll be celebrating joyously.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's probably going to be a draw. You'd have to say there's going to be goals in this game, looking at what Town have done so far this season, what Lincoln did last weekend, which probably means it's going to be a 0-0. But I'm going to say 2-2, and I wouldn't be mad at that. A draw to stop the bleeding, and then look to get that first win under your belt. Further down the line, boys, have you got anything else to mention? Any other business before I do the big wrap up outro?
No other business.
No other business for me.
Any other wall-based anecdotes, Mr. Bacon?
Well, not really. I've just seen the Royal Mail van has just called outside my house and knocked on my door. So I don't know what he wanted. Probably deliver me cement or something. So I've probably got 8 packs of cement outside my front door as I now go out there, because the builder obviously has not taken heed of what I said, that I'm not happy with the price, and has gone ahead and ordered the bloody cement anyway. So I'm probably going to go out now and have to have an argument with the Royal Mail van.
Surely it's fan mail, isn't it?
I do get a lot of fan mail. Yes, I know. Thank you.
Right then, friends, I've enjoyed that today. It's been just over an hour of excellent town chat. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. It's been good speaking to you this week. All it leaves me to say then is follow us across all our social medias: Instagram, Kings of Angler on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Always pushing that YouTube with the video stuff we're doing. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, because that helps us with the visibility in the iTunes chart, which is tremendous. And also remember, please, to support our sponsors. Use the code KOA at manscaped.com. I finally got myself a weed whacker, Hutchie, and it's a tremendous thing. So I'd highly recommend that if you're not really into shaving the old intimate area. Get yourself a weed whacker and clear up the nose and ear hair. It's tremendous. That's code KOA for 20% off and free delivery at manscaped.com. And also remember, today is opening night, as it were, for Never Lost at Home, the new Wolsey Theatre, the play about the UEFA Cup victory back in 1981. Go back and listen to the special podcast that we did, if you haven't already, because that was good fun. And get your tickets through the new Wolsey website. Right then, that's us done for another week. Fingers crossed Ipswich Town do it this weekend. We'll be back, whatever happens next week, to break it down. Go and stick all your money, 25 to 1, Ipswich Town to win League One. Have a great weekend, and we'll speak to you again next week.